Hello and welcome to our next episode of Millennium Diva Show. This is a platform to bring out stories, journeys, and also a platform to talk about your achievements, your business, and your products, right? So, Millennium Diva Show brings in the best of the best speakers and mentors from the industry and from the ecosystem. And we are fortunate today to have a very, very dynamic women entrepreneur, a thought leader called Dr. Apoorva Palkar. She is the Director for Innovation, Incubation, and Linkages at SP University, Pune. That's called Savitribai Phule University, Pune. So, Dr. Palkar, welcome to Billion Diva Show.
Hi, Bhavesh.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Really honored and humbled to accept our invitation and join this wonderful platform that we have created to talk about journeys and inspiration as a means to reach out to a lot of women entrepreneurs across our community and across the globe. But before I get into a quick introduction, let me take this opportunity to formally introduce you and your journey as well, right? So, Dr. Apoorva Palkar is a startup specialist in education and transformational expert. She's currently working as a director for innovation, incubation, and linkage at Savitribai Phule Pune University. Dr. Palkar is a PhD in business management, alumni of IMA, and bachelor's in mathematics. She has spearheaded large scale international projects with various governments and has been active in policy making framework and development of research. She has been in the leadership position for the last 15 years and has led a business school as a director for the 10 years later. And then she worked in the corporate space, AP Global, a top media conglomerate, as chief operating officer, education for 5 years. She was also a part of the Higher State Education Council, SHEC, an apex body that works on enhancing quality of higher education in the state of Maharashtra, and has been a part of the Startup Policy Committee at Maharashtra and with the Government of India. She's also worked as a convener task force globalization of higher education government of Maharashtra, advisor to the Minister of Higher Education government of Maharashtra on all policy matters. She has authored more than 5 books in marketing management and social media marketing, published more than 23 research papers in referred journals. 8 students have been awarded PhD under her guidance, and she's editor of 2 research journals as well. A teacher of marketing management, her interest is in innovation, innovative practices in businesses. She has closed 22 MOUs with various universities and countries with state government. Currently, the member of Academic Council and Board of Deans, Savitribai Phule Pune University. She also handles boards of research, innovation, and linkage at the university. She also is an independent board member with Catalyst Tech and mentor for startup funds in the company, board member at many education institutes like GS College, SBS Ahmedabad, and many more. Really, really honored to have you, ma'am, with us. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for that nice introduction that you gave me today.
I'm very, very impressed, and I'm really honored to, especially interact with you. And I still remember, my first interaction with you way back in 2019, when we were, actually trying to do a women-focused startup conference called Women Power. And I was very, very, happy that you actually extended your wholehearted support to this initiative. And since then, I'm very delighted to formally associate with you, with the university as well, in nurturing and mentoring entrepreneurs. And I'm very happy that I see that passion that you run this initiatives, right? So my first question to you is, from a research and business administration to public policy to education and then to entrepreneurship, could you give us some more insights on this amazing journey of yours?
Okay, it is the journey is really diverse journey that I've had in my career, where I started as a faculty member in a business school, where I was teaching marketing management, and I rose to become a director of the institute, which I led for almost 10 years. After having led the business school, I had the fortune of being a part of the corporate education sector, where I led an education initiative as a chief operating officer. And while I worked in these positions, both at the institute, that is a business school, as well as while I was in the corporate side, I realized one thing, that if you are really going to be a change maker, what is really required is that we need to be at the places where the change actually occurs. And the change occurs at the policy making framework and being a part of the policy making framework. And this is where I'm fortunate that I was spotted at multiple times to be a part of various committees on the policy making framework, had the benefit and advantage of working very, very closely in the advisory team of the then Minister for Higher and Technical Education. And I got exposed to multiple areas. One of them, which was globalization of higher education. Skilling was another part in which I contributed. Third one was what triggered my thought process in terms of deciding that this is the next step that I'm going to be taking in, and that was the startup ecosystem, where I was a part of the I2E policy, which was created at the state level. And while we created this particular policy, I realized that a lot of times policies get created, but there are issues and challenges in terms of implementation. And that is where this post for Director Innovation Incubation Linkages got advertised for University of Pune. And I thought this was the right move for me to move from the writing space where we're giving gyan to people that this is a policy, this is how it should be implemented. And this is where I moved from there into the doing space. So whatever was the part of the policy framework, I had the opportunity and fortune of implementing it into the university. So in a huge 72-year-old university, I went and joined a center, which was a startup, which was a zero day for me when I joined in the month of July 2018. That center itself was a startup in the university system. So, and all along in whatever assignments that I've done in the past, so be it even my first job where I started as a lecturer, that was a very new institution. When I led the business school as a director, I was the founder director of the institute. So again, it was kind of a startup. And then again, when I went into the corporate conglomerate, again, it was a huge 80-year-old organization where education and setting up of the skill space and the skills vertical for them was absolutely new. Again, it was kind of a startup. And now in the university, again in the startup. So this is how my journey has been, where I've had the exposure of working in the private education side, and then the corporate side, then the government side, and now in the university, which is a public university system. So that's been the small journey that I have, and now I've taken up as my passion and as my objective in life to be in the startup ecosystem and help and support people who want to become entrepreneurs.
Wow. Yeah, really delighted, and I'm honored to be a part of this. Especially, it you call it as a small, but I'm sure it is a significant journey that you've had. So, can you share some more insights as a thought leader on how you are driving strategies in creation of the policy, setting up of the incubation center, and developing a culture of innovation in the university campus and fostering entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a very interesting story because that's one part of my life which is very live and it is very, very fresh because it's just happened 2 years back. When I came and joined the university, I had a lot of pressure because the university ranks number one in the state today. The university stands at number nine nationally as per the NIRF ranking framework, and therefore it had a very, very strong foundation in terms of research, in terms of teaching, and credibility of the university. And therefore, I thought that it would be a cakewalk for me to get into such a nice university and set up a startup innovation cell. But when I went and joined there, I realized that academics is very different from the business space, and most of the faculty members, most of the departments where we had the best researchers who were working on uh, some of them were working on the applied research, some people were working on the fundamental research, but a lot of them were working um, with a very different agenda and objective, which was more from in terms of how do we enhance the given knowledge. But transforming that particular knowledge into what we call it as the commercialization through an enterprise was something that was very alien for most of them. So when I went and joined there, and I called for the first set of applications from the university, 55 departments in the university, I realized that a lot of good people walked into my office to ask me how to write this proposal. They were used to writing research proposals. They've been doing that for very many years. But writing a proposal which required, giving projections of a business, they didn't know what a business plan was. Not everyone came from business background, though we do have a business department which is quite competent, and a commerce department. But barring these two departments, the rest of them who were really good researchers from the department of botany and zoology and physics and environmental science, all the geography. So we had so much of interest. It arose so much of interest because most of them were innovators and they knew that they had something new and different to offer, but they didn't know how to put it in the framework. So for me, the first starting point was understanding that I have to start from scratch in terms of making them aware of how to write a business proposal. So it started off with even small things like doing uh, the workshops for them in terms of how to write it, and then the second step that I took was creating a faculty policy, because there I felt that unless you have a policy in place, the faculties will not get engaged in this whole process. Third important piece that I felt that as a huge public university, which is more than 800 affiliated colleges under us, I felt that I will be doing injustice to my work and my job if I am not able to reach out to the affiliated college system. And this is where we reached out to the affiliated college system and roped in close to around 275 colleges who set up the startup innovation cells under my Center for Innovation, Incubation, and Business. And then the fourth piece where I felt that I knew that I came from business management background, but I can't be omnipotent and omnipresent everywhere, and I can't be the master of all. I too had to do a lot of learning. So I felt that the best way of uh, reducing my curve of learning and getting success in the university was through the right kind of engagements. So this is where the first engagement or the memorandum of understanding that we did was with TIE Pune, which is a very active, vibrant um, chapter in the Thai global ecosystem. And I was fortunate that the Thai chartered members came forth, and we were able to sign up an MOU, and this gave me a great bandwidth of the best resources in the city of Pune, who were advisors, who were mentors, straight from the Thai ecosystem. We got them on the board of the universities to help and support the startup. And with this kind of ecosystem with Thai, and then slowly and gradually we reached out to Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, EDII, from where we took help and support in terms of how do we develop our training material with them. uh, we also engaged with KPIT Sparkle, many more engagements that started happening over a period of time. Um, and of course, the latest one has been the Chinchwad Startup Innovation Cell, which is actually engaged us to help and support them. So we're already in a stage where we were merged, and now we are also helping and supporting the other incubators. So the point that I was trying to drive here is that the MOUs help me, drive a lot of good people into my ecosystem quickly into the university. That was the third piece that I tried and I did. And the fourth part, which I felt was, talking about what we do to the outside world through a lot of awareness programs that we did. We started conducting conclaves and startups. We started engaging with partners to do, and Millennium Devas is one of the partners with whom we did one program. Similarly, we conducted programs with Ann Calcutta. We did it with many other. We did it with Venture Center in Pune and many others to reach out to the community at large. So this was the sort of a small strategy I worked out for my incubation center to quickly reach out to people. And I'm happy that in the first go itself, I had, in about 3 months of existence, I had close to around 11 startups in the first go. In the second go, in the second cohort, we were able to get close to around 30 startups. And now I have the third cohort coming up with about 60 companies who have shown interest. So slowly and gradually, it has just been increasing. And while doing so, we also ensured that we kept alive the whole ecosystem with competitions, hackathons, and problem statements that actually came from the corporates. There were problem statements that came from the municipal corporation. There were prize money that came from a lot of them. We created an investor committee, and an investor committee is in place, which is trying and helping and supporting the startups. And icing on the cake was the 5 crores funding that we received from Maharashtra State Innovation Society. In last 2 years of our journey with Maharashtra State Innovation Society, the society has conferred upon us the status of being leaders in the incubation space. Of the 19 incubators, I think the 3 or 4 of them will receive this. But rest of them, fortunately, by God's grace, have been in existence for more than 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. We are the youngest incubator to have gone into that particular space. So this is how
Fantastic.
my journey with
Fantastic. And I'm also given to understand that you recently got a recognition and chosen as a leader, for in the category for the incubation space, right? So
yeah.
congratulations, first of all, for that.
Thank you.
Uh, I think, as you rightly said, it is this 2.5 years journey has been really exciting for you. And if I have to count this pandemic also, right, I think it's either a blessing or a boon to a lot of people. Uh, so my next question to you is, especially over the last 3.5 years, or say, what has been your observation on how to effectively drive and build an innovation culture leading? Great. So, as I was saying that, I have been through a lot of startup ecosystem, especially engaging with a lot of universities and colleges, and I've seen a lot of challenge, that they go through. So, what has been your observation over these years on how to effectively drive and build an innovation culture leading to entrepreneurship in universities and colleges?
Though I touched upon that particular point in answering the first question, but I'll elaborate that. It so happened that when we sent out the first set of letters to colleges saying that why don't you set up your startup innovation cells under the university, um, we realized that the interest levels were very, very low for most of the people. So we realized that it is important for them to understand why this is significant. And this is where we set up, we told the principals that you would be having the startup innovation cell heads in your colleges. So that glamorized position of startup innovation cell heads helped and supported a lot of people. So there were faculty members who were very, very keen to be in this, but they did not have any place or a platform where they could do this. Unfortunately or fortunately, I would say that fortunately for us, there was set of about 10-15% of very, very good colleges who were already running entrepreneurship cells for very many years. But innovation startup cells, this concept itself was a little different from entrepreneurship. And this is where we started educating them as to what the space is all about. So it was a lot of effort on our part to create that awareness for them. And then over a period of time, saying that you are the startup innovation cell head in your college. And fortunately, by God's grace, I must say that it was around this time that some kind of rating agencies, the NAC, etc., also started paying significance to innovation as a concept. So the marks started getting allocated even in their ranking systems to innovation and startups. And this is where it picked up. So I must say that we came into it at the right time when the country was actually talking and discussing about how do we create Atmanirbhar Bharat. This is the time where Startup India is very prevalent. This is the time when there's a lot of funding which is flowing into these areas. And all these things compounded, and this is how that interest got created, both in the university space as well as in the affiliated ecosystem. So colleges have also realized the importance of it, and slowly and gradually now we have large number of colleges, and the virtual support that the university is able to give even to colleges which are not in Pune. For example, there are colleges in Ahmednagar, there are colleges in the district of Nasik. So we are a three district university. So with all this and with the technology that we have in place, and also to a large extent, we've seen that the employment numbers have been dwindling because of the pandemic and many other reasons. So there is a lot of excitement that even the students have in terms of getting into this. And one important thing that we've been also driving in the colleges is that it's not important that everyone has to become an entrepreneur. But what is it that we are trying to develop through this initiative is your thinking capabilities. Where when you say that the project done by your student is a cut, copy, paste of the project, instead we are saying that why don't you ask him to do a live project for a startup or some innovative idea. This is where the student starts thinking innovatively himself. He exercises his brains to bring something on the table, and that becomes interesting for teacher. It becomes interesting for the student. So this is all about the new order thinking in education system that we are trying to drive through this innovation sector.
Yeah, I think a very, very valid point that you mentioned, right? It should not be a cut, copy, paste of ideas, which is happening elsewhere. I think new ideas and new products are the need of the hour. And I think critical thinking brought through innovation and best practices, I think, will catapult the startup ecosystem in a much larger space, and especially with you driving this at the core with the SP incubation space. I wanted to also bring this question that I had when I visited the center also, and I saw the kind of setup that you have been able to create, right? So as a institution, as a university, what was one of your biggest challenge when it comes to putting this whole project together and bringing in those, I think 252, 260 odd universities that you have, right?
Colleges.
Uh, Colleges that you had, and especially knowing that colleges have to have a representative to drive this project, and especially getting an external party was very difficult. You had to bring in professors who are excellent in academics, but for them understanding the viability of a project in terms of the commercial space is a big challenge, right? So what was how did you drive that?
So let me tell you, academia is really a different ballgame altogether. Where we have experts, where we have people who have spent their lifetime, learning some subject, researching some subject, and professing that subject. So all said and done, they're experts in their area. They're good teachers. They're good academics. But one thing that we realized over a period of time that these are also the set of people who have good appreciation for anything which is really nice, and they're willing to learn anything that is new and different if it comes from really the authority. So this is where the challenge was for me in terms of getting the best resources to come as trainers for the faculty members as well as for the student community. And a lot of times we also observed that we rolled out over a period of time after a year or so when people started getting confidence in our work. Sometimes we would only call for the students and we could find that there were faculties who logged in. At times, there were even principals of the colleges who logged in just for the sake of understanding this whole, uh, the game plan of how to run the startup ecosystem. I've been invited at a lot of places also from this ecosystem by principals and directors to speak to their faculty members. And so it's like a slow process, but it is picking up really fast. We didn't anticipate that the acceptance will be so fast for a lot of them, but we see that happening in big numbers, even in smaller locations like a place called Kopargaon, where there's an engineering college. And when we asked for the innovation to enterprise competition ideas, even bigger colleges in Pune could give only about 10, 12 ideas, but the college in Kopargaon Sanjeevani Institute was able to give us close to 86 vibrant ideas. So that is how, and this innovation to enterprise competition, that was a concept that we drew by the at the university, where we also declared a prize money for it, also motivated for a lot of people. So this became kind of a stepping stone for people who wanted to get into startup ecosystem. To our surprise, we also found that through the I2E competition, where we were able to get all these colleges, we divided them into clusters and cluster level competitions which were created. There were a lot of institutions who came forward saying that we would like to even conduct the cluster level competition because that gives us an interface of, if someone is only in the engineering side, gets an interface of someone from pharmacy, someone from engineering. So those students come and that culture gets built, So that is how this innovation to enterprise competition that we have been running for last 2 years and giving prize money has helped a lot of colleges to get motivated to be a part of this. And from there, we try and pick up some of the companies and then we help and support them in the incubation stage. And then once we see that they're really ready to go to the incubation is where we also take them into a Section 8 company. So there is a kind of a path that we have defined for people, and we always observe that if there is a concrete, clear path for people to know that what is in it for them in long term, is where people want to engage in that initiative. This is how this has happened actually.
Fantastic. I think that's a great milestone to achieve, especially the participation coming in and the kind of enthusiasm shown by the top management of colleges. I think that's where the push for driving more innovation happens as well, right? I think you need to have stakeholders taking charge of certain activities, which will also benefit because for colleges, I think it's not just about recruiting people or getting them great jobs. I think if they are able to become great breeding grounds for innovation, it would be a great sea of change for the entire entrepreneurship community or a world at large as well. My next question, that's a very important question for me, coming from a platform for women entrepreneurs, right? So, how do you see the role of women entrepreneurs in driving innovation and entrepreneurship in the country?
I think women play a very, very important role. At times, we've not seen them come out very, very strongly. If you look at even the population statistics, we have 49% of the women and 51% of men in the complete population of the country, as per this last census. And when we have such a large population, which is almost equal to the male counterpart, what becomes significant is that this portion of 49% of the people who are the women need to be motivated to get into the startup ecosystem. ecosystem, which is important, is essential. While I'm also saying so, I'm saying this with a lot of conviction about the fact that nothing against men, but we've also seen that the merit list of 10th standard, 12th standard, you look at the pass percentages in most of the competitive examination, you have women doing extremely well. But then after the completion of the education and the point of moving from the education to career, that transition, that is the point where I think that women need to be motivated, and a lot of perseverance is required societally. The societal change has to come by. And at times we've also seen women do go out and work today, especially in the urban sector, where we see that Mumbai has seen this for last 2 3 generations, where women have been working closely with men. But that is confined to people going out and working for somebody, where I know for sure that if I need a maternity leave, I get for 3 months. During my times it was 3 months, now it is a 6 months maternity leave, etc., etc. So all those privileges are there. But it is important and essential for us to drive these women into entrepreneurship journey, and get them to lead organizations and enterprises. And I think this is where uh, we will forego a lot of talent if we are not able to motivate them to get into the startup entrepreneurial journey, where they are the bosses of their own vision, they're the bosses of their own time, they are the bosses of what they really want to drive, and what is the value that they want to give for the existence for which the women are here on this universe. So I think this is very important question, and this is has to be solved at a national level. And there has have to be more Bhavesh Kotharis of the world. I think you need to multiply yourself into multiple numbers and motivate more number of women to get into it. And I think women are slowly and gradually getting into it. um, in Pune also we have a lot of women who are leading the businesses. In fact, in my incubation also there is the team of husband and wife. The wife is playing equally an important role as much as the male member is doing. So this way we are seeing a shift and a change that's happening slowly in the society. But I guess that there have to be more number of success stories that have to come out, and more number of success stories will have more number of women getting into the startup ecosystem. It's just what they require is the drive from the society, from their homes, from their counterparts, that's their husband and people with whom they live, and also a lot of peers who probably do this and become successful, and that's where a cascading effect will happen in the society. I'm not saying that India is not seeing that. India is seeing that. Maharashtra is seeing that big time. Pune, Mumbai is seeing this big time. But we can make it multiple fold the way it is today in times to come.
I think yeah, very true. Especially I have seen that personally over the past 4 5 years. The rise in the number of women in workforce and the rise in number of women in entrepreneurship has grown significantly. And as you rightly mentioned, it is not just about women empowerment. I think women are already empowered. What is needed is the support. Yeah, sorry, I think my screen froze again.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Dr. Palkar, my next question to you is, if you get an opportunity to change one thing from, I think, from a policy perspective in the current education system to boost entrepreneurship and innovation, what would that be?
I strongly feel that it is not about the policy change that is required. We have a sufficient number of policies in place currently. There are there are multiple policies in place at the national level. There's a policy at the state level. We have the policy both from the State Innovation Council, Maharashtra State Innovation Council. It's a policy which has been put in place by the Higher Education Department. There is also the AICT, which has come out with a policy, and the Innovation Mission, Atal Innovation Mission, etc. They have given a policy framework for universities and colleges to adapt. So enough number of policies are there. Even if the institution, academic institution, decide to just implement them properly, I think that is what is really required today, because there are multiple policies and more number of policies are really not required. And in any policy framework, with my experience that I've had, is what becomes more significant is that the process for implementation of that policy is more important, because the policies have been framed in last 3 4 5 years. Now is the time for few of the drivers, of these policies, to showcase how the process was taken up, and this is what is required for the others to understand and adapt to it. Things are written in the policy, but how do I put that into practice is where people get stuck up. And this process documents need to be created in large numbers, and this is what should be circulated to people, which will help and motivate people. And because reading a document makes no sense for a lot of you know and then there are bureaucratic hurdles, there are process hurdles. How do you overcome this bureaucratic hurdles? How do you overcome this process hurdles? What are the solutions to the problems that they're facing? If there can be a lot of FAQ answers to this given, I think that is what is required. But having said this, one small thing that I feel that is required even today is the startups today are striving for seed funding, where the amount of money available in the form of seed fund to a lot of this budding entrepreneurs is insufficient, I would say, for the numbers that are coming out and the amount of seed funding.
Yeah. So wonderful. So I think, as you rightly mentioned, right, there has to be a process implementation strategy that is the need of the hour. I think we have some great policies that have been drafted over the past 5 6 years. With the likes of AIM, Niti Aayog doing some phenomenal work. A lot of institutions are now putting forward their front foot in driving innovation. Uh, my last question to you, Dr. Palkar, is as a woman thought leader and an entrepreneur, what would be your one message to fellow women entrepreneurs? And
Tough question. This is the toughest question, I must say. One liner to all who are getting into the startup journey, women, that the life of an entrepreneur is not easy. It's not a cakewalk at all. It is not meant for people who want to be on the back seat. It is just meant for people who want to be on the front seat, driving issues, challenges, products, processes, systems, services, organizations, and taking them to the next level, which requires a different kind of confidence, conviction, risk taking capabilities, and the ability to say that I will be successful. That is what is essential.
wonderful, wonderful. I think if I have to sum it up, you're talking about an iron lady, with a lot of conviction to beat the world as well. Great. Thank you, Dr. Palkar. It's been an amazing interaction with you. I have personally got a couple of great key areas, especially in terms of the process document that you mentioned, right? I think it's a great idea, that needs to be done, from a policy perspective on how to, the what and the why is known, but how is the critical aspect that needs to be done. So thank you so much. Really honored and humbled and elated that you could spare your valuable time. More than that, your experience and knowledge with us. And on behalf of all of us at Brilliant Divas, my heartfelt gratitude and thank you so much for being a part of this. So, to all the viewers that we have, this was Dr. Palkar, who heads the Innovation, Incubation, and Linkages at SPPU, who was with us. We will also come back to you with another dynamic diva and her process and her journey of being a woman entrepreneur on yours Millennium Diva show only. So till then, stay tuned. stay safe, and keep rocking the entrepreneurship world. Thank you so much, Dr. Palkar, once again on behalf of all of us.
Thanks. Bye bye.